What is agentic AI? We have LLM, right? What is LLM? A large language model. What is this model itself? No. So what are those models? We have GPT-4, Claude, Llama. These are all the model themselves, called the large language models. Second thing, what is AI assistant? So this AI assistant is the chart interface wrapped around an LLM. This is basically a chart interface wrapped around LLM. Example, open this chatgpt.com, right? Chatgpt.com, which you will have this interface where we type our prompt and then the LLM answers that. Correct? That is the AI assistant. The third thing is, I want you to understand the differences here. Basically, so what is AI agent? A system that uses an LLM to pursue a goal by itself across multiple steps. So one thing, it's a system that uses an LLM. It can use any LLM and then pursues a goal. We'll talk about the goal sooner. By itself, and it uses multiple steps. What are those steps? We'll discuss. Now, I want you to remember some mental model. Okay. Imagine there is a chatbot, right? Imagine there is a chatbot, and we say, let's say we want to ask, what is your refund policy? So, or maybe a customer email is a bit angry, and we want the chatbot to answer that, or we want the chatbot to check the order against the warehouse database, right? And we want the chatbot to understand if it qualifies for a refund, whether we can issue the refund through the payments API, or can we send a customer a confirmation. So all these things, do we need a human approving each step, or is it an automatic step? So that's where I would like to segregate these AI agents, or whatever we call it, right, in multiple levels. And for that, the first thing, the mental model that we want to understand is that P D A. Remember this. P is perceive. D is decide. And then A is for act. And this is the loop. So when we want any AI agent to achieve a goal, basically these are the simple basic steps that happens. First to perceive, then decide, then act, and again check the answer. The response from the act will become the input again for the perceival, and then decide, then act again. Let us discuss an example. No? So there is a probably let us look into some kind of like order, right? A clerk is there. Okay. Imagine a clerk is there, which is who is a human being. So there is something called make sure order 4521 ships today. Okay, this is the goal actually, no? This is just not an instruction, but this is the goal. The goal is to make sure this particular order with order ID 4521, make sure to ship it today, right? So that particular junior warehouse clerk has a goal. Now, from the human perspective, how she will achieve that action? The first thing, perceive, right? What does perceive? The clerk will check the order status in the system. What is the payment status, right? Order or payment status, right? Order payment status in the check. Suppose if the payment status is pending, will she ship the product? No, right? Because pending payment has to be completed, no? The payment has to be successful. So then what she will do? She will decide based on this. Based on this, she will decide. What she will decide? So the payment is missing, so order can't ship. Because payment missing. Now, what is the third act? Act, right? PDT, perceive, decide, act. The act can be make a customer call. Okay, call customer for payment. She can call the customer and say that your payment has failed. Please complete the payment so that your order can be shipped. This is the kind of what you say is kind of like one iteration, right? The whole thing PDT is one iteration. Now she again has to check it, no, because she has not yet completed her goal. Her goal is to ship the product to the customer, right? So she will again check. She will again do these things. Again, she will check. After making the call to the customer, it is possible that the customer might have done the payment. Once the payment has been done by the customer, in the next successive iteration, again perceive, what she will see is that payment successful. It is possible, no? Now, when the payment is successful, the decision will change, no? The decision is that payment cleared, so it needs the pickup. Payment cleared needs order pickup. Now, what is the action here? So she will send a pickup order request to the floor team. Okay, pickup order request to the floor team. Someone has to pick the order, right? Okay, with this iteration, did she reach her goal? Not yet, no, because her goal is to ship the product if possible today, correct? So goal is not yet reached. So again iteration. So she needs to complete her task. So this is a loop. It goes on in a loop. The next thing again perceive. Now she will check the status if the product has been picked, order has been picked or not. Now maybe the status can be it is picked and then the awaiting label, right? So we need to put the label product ID, the how much money that we paid and all invoice bill, all these things, that label has to be put on top of that shipping, no? The second thing is the decide, then print shipping label to the particular address, shipping address, then hand over to the courier. Okay, hand over to the courier. So perceive is done, awaiting label. Then she takes a decision. Yes, I need to put the label and all. Okay, then she prints the shipping label. Then the next action is that once the printing label is done, she had to give it to the courier, right? Now with this one, goal is achieved. Once she has handed over to the courier, the goal is achieved. Now look at this one. As a human being, this is what we do, right? There are three things that are continuously happening in a loop. One is the perceive, that means look into the system current status, based on the system and the current status, decide what is the action to be taken, and then take that action. After taking that action, again go into the loop, again perceive where is the status, based on the current status, again take the decision and the action. It goes on, moves on, right? So finally she reaches to the goal. So the ship order 4521 today, the goal has been achieved by following this PDT, perceive, decide, act. Probably she might have done it in one loop or two loop or three loop or four loops based on the realistic situation. It doesn't need to be three loops always, right? Isn't it? So she decides based on the situation. Maybe it might even get delayed also due to unforeseen situations. So based on the situation, she will decide, and it can even go to the 10 loops, but she will eventually complete that shipping. Then only she will say that this particular task is 100% complete. Okay. Now, what is AI agent then? This is basically you can think of like a replacement of Clerk, right? This is exactly what AI agent also does. AI agent takes a goal and start doing the things like PDT iteratively in a loop until it successfully reach to a goal. I'm not saying that every AI agent will do things automatically and all. The next topic that we are going to discuss is the autonomy, right? What kind of autonomy an AI agent should have or will have? Probably from the industrial perspective also we will discuss. So this is the first AI agent introduction. Now the second thing is that autonomy, right? Okay. Autonomy, I will put into four levels. Okay. First, imagine there is a human here, there is a system here. Okay. This is example. Take a tool like a calculator. Here, a human, if you want to do a calculation, right? I mean, calculator basically what human do, he does everything. No, he does everything. If it goes to the system, basically a module will be there. Let's say calculator module, then add or multiply, some method, right? Some function. It can be a Python function, it can be C++, Java, does not matter, right? Anything about the programming language, whatever we have and all the system has, it will execute that. It is a function call basically, right? That is a tool. The reason I am explaining this tool because this is exactly what you are going to see in the next session. Okay. Now, zero, I call the level 0 is the tool. Okay. Tool means you can think of a kind of like a function call, or a kind of like a library, whatever it is, right? Now, the second thing is assistant. Okay. What does a human does? So, human basically, let's say, if I am a assistant, what I will do is that basically I will put a question like, based on the answer that other person gives, right? That's where we go to any, let's say, library assistant. Okay, he puts a question to us, based on what we ask. Or you go to ChatGPT and all, you put a question and ChatGPT responds back, right? So think of an assistant as a kind of like, a human basically, he will ask something, reviews the answer, ask something, right? Now the same thing analogy if you put for the system, what the system will do. So it basically answer one question at a time. Okay. Answer one question at a time, right? It's just an assistant only, no? Because it cannot access the databases, it cannot access to the other file systems on itself. So whatever the information that is provided to it, then based on that, it will need to put a question. Example, this is the chat GPT, that's why it happens, no? Isn't it? Now, Copilot. Copilot think of as kind of like a developer. Let's say I am the developer, I write a code, I cannot push the code directly into the production system, no, until it gets reviewed by someone. Maybe some senior person has to be reviewed. or a TL has to give the approval, isn't it? Because continuous delivery, of course, continuous delivery happens, but then again, it happens based on the timelines only. No, your team lead will take the cues from your engineering manager, and engineering manager decides when to release what, and then based on that, the human being does the action approval, isn't it? He will take the action approval, right? He approves each action, or maybe even GitHub Copilot also that does the same thing, right? It gives certain things and all. Maybe let us say if it wants to send an email, it does not send. It will create the email and probably it will send it to you. Only if you click on send button only that email will go. Similar to that. Okay. So and then the system, what does it do? It proposes the next action, no? Okay. So example, as I mentioned, a simple agent that drafts a refund email, but human, it's waiting for the human to click send because it will not take the call on itself. So it waits for the human action. That's what we call it as a copilot agent, right? Third, supervised agent. So supervised agent, imagine this customer support people, right? I mean, suppose if we start replacing the customer support agents with our supervised agent, and this can what human can do in general, a customer support agent, what human can do, a customer support agent, a human, he basically reviews the logs and he understood the facts and all, and if there are any exceptions on that, he will intervene. Okay, so supervised agent also does the similar thing. It completes a multi-step task end to end. Certain multi-steps are there. Let's say, like, it looks into the logs. Based on the logs, it needs to understand something. Then it does that. Okay, and finally, it wants to take a conclusion. So that also it will conclude. And if it wants to give some response to the customer, it will do the response and help the customer. An agent example, if you look at it, so a tier 1 supports tickets, right? Tier 1 is a basic support ticket system, no, which does not include the high end system, like where it can connects to the database completely and all, and it doesn't do any fixes and all. Okay, so and then it flags any unusual things, right? I mean, if something goes wrong and all, let's say if the payment fails, probably it can say that, hey, this particular thing, the payment has been failed, that is the reason the shipment has not been done. So that's a kind of like tier 1 support, because all the facts are there on the logs itself, and then based on those logs it will tell it. Now this is autonomous agent. This autonomous agent is completely different thing. It is really autonomous. When we say autonomous, when we set the, I mean, basically it sets the goals and walks away. Who? Human. He basically set goals for this and walk away. He doesn't do any approval kind of things and all. He wants the AI agent to take complete ownership. Okay, and this particular fourth level autonomous agent, it runs in a kind of like infinite loop or something like that, indefinitely, I would say, indefinitely, and it make what? Irreversible decisions. So it's a notorious to take the irreversible decisions because it does not need the human approval. That's what the human also wants. That's why we call this autonomous agent. An agent that manages, let's say, maybe like, how much to spend for the particular ad campaigns and all in real time, right? So yeah, you can do that. Now you understood there are 4 level of agents you can say. Number one is the tool, a simple tool call or a function call. The second one is an assistant, a kind of like a chatbot, like a ChatGPT kind of thing, where the human asks a question and ChatGPT gives a response back and asks the question back or otherwise. And the next thing is the copilot, where basically humans approach the action, but then the system will give the next actions to do. And then comes the supervised agent, basically it does some kind of like a multi-step task end to end, okay, but not completely autonomous. So if you look at production systems, most systems in real companies, they today sit at level 2 or 3. Either Copilot, this is what GitHub Copilot, the developer, most of the developers, they use it, no? It generates the code and the developer has to approve and review the code and approve it. It just cannot commit itself, okay? Or supervised, okay? So for example, supervised, that's what the chat bot and customer support system, right? These supervised agents are replacing the customer support agents. They can make the calls, they can make calls to the customer, okay, and they will provide some feedback and all, and also they can find out something, any irregularities out of the logs and flag them out, okay. The reason is that if you look at fourth level autonomous agent, most of the companies don't go with this one, okay. Maybe this is there in the cars, maybe autonomous cars are there, no, maybe that's where it is used. Otherwise in regular healthcare, if you see healthcare or a fintech, this is dangerous to use fourth level autonomous agents. The reason is healthcare, we need to follow HIPAA compliance, because whatever the decisions that the agents take, they were irreversible decisions. And if the agents, suppose by mistake, if it discloses a person's name or address or their diseases, it's a big violation of the compliance. And the companies will needs to face the penalties. The same thing with fintech also. What if the agent shows the card number? What if the agent displays, maybe mistakenly shows the birthday or PAN numbers, or whatever, Aadhaar numbers, whatever, right? Which are supposed to be encrypted or hashed in the database and should not be, even for a mistake also, should not be shown to others or disclosed, right? Otherwise, there are penalties, no? So there are highly regulated environments like healthcare and the fintech. In those highly regulated environments, companies don't use these autonomous agents, okay. And later we will learn to do with the safeguards and all, guardrails and all these things will come, okay. So there is always a human checkpoint. If you look at Copilot, there is a human checkpoint, okay. The next session, what we are going to discuss is the building blocks, right? The kind of building blocks the LLM require or uses to run the loops, prompts, tools, memory, all these things, okay. So this is the introductory session, just to give you an understanding of what an agent, okay, the levels and all. Thank you.